Welcome back to Law and Justice. I'm your host, Matt Staver. I want to introduce you to a family by the name of Joseph and Heidi Rotella. They have a 7th grade daughter who was a straight A student in the New York City public schools. To the surprise of Mr. Rotella, one day he received a telephone call while at work stating that his daughter was literally escorted out of class and he needed to come down and pick her up and take her home. The issue was an objection to obtaining the hepatitis B vaccination. Hepatitis B can only be transmitted in one of 3 limited ways, either through drug use, through blood products, or if you're born to a mother at the time who is chronically infected with hepatitis B. The Rotellas had sincerely held religious convictions that their daughter should not be submitted to the hepatitis B vaccination because to do so would be to condone drug use or promiscuous sex. In this particular case, the Rotellas were faced with a choice, either violate their constitutional beliefs or alternatively to abide by those beliefs and have their daughter literally removed from their home by the Child Protective Services.
I couldn't, at work, I couldn't function. Thinking anytime they were going to come to my house and take my kids away because I didn't do what they wanted us to do, vaccinate the kids.
That was our biggest fear, because I felt we could wait out. Eventually we could fight the Board of Ed, but there was no wait out period for the child services. We figured they were coming any second. Even 2, 3 in the morning. We didn't know when we would get that knock. And we were afraid, hey, they're going to knock, they're going to come in, and they're going to give some kind of excuse to take our kids away from us. Whether it be medical neglect, they'll come up with something. And we can't do anything about it because we had no one there to help us.
Unfortunately, the situation involving the Rotellas was not an isolated event. We asked Mr. Rotella, did he know of other situations in the New York City public schools?
Close by around you that are going through the same situation we're going through. Yes, we knew a couple of parents that were threatened with child services. We knew child services actually came. We knew one particular family, the Reardon family, who child services actually were a day or 2 away from taking their children away from them because they did not get any vaccines on their children since day one, and they had a long-standing religious belief. And they, unfortunately, succumbed to it. They actually had their children vaccinated. They were about to take their children away, and they threatened their husband, who worked for the city of New York, with some type of ramifications up the road, maybe concerning a pension or something that would eventually come back to bite him. Because he did work for the city.
Next thing you know, Liberty Counsel comes through for us.
The moment I saw Joel come out of, Joel Oster was our lawyer from the Liberty Counsel, and I met him at Newark Airport. And I saw this big, hulking, clean-cut Floridian, blonde-haired, blue eyes, coming to the snake pit of Brooklyn in a courtroom that's going to take on lawyers from New York City that has the New York lingo, the New York attitude. And I thought, truthfully, no way they're going to win this case. It can't be done. Not with this nice guy. He's too nice, and they're going to eat him up. Because I know New York City. I was born and raised there, and I know what goes on, and I know attitude. And came in on a Wednesday, came in on a Tuesday. We went right to the court, right to the courthouse in Brooklyn. He saw a judge. The judge saw this as a very important case, and it had to be addressed immediately. Normally, I was told they would have delayed it 2 or 3 weeks because there was so much on the calendar, but they knew the situation, and the judge said, we'll do it tomorrow, which is Wednesday. We'll start the case tomorrow, and great. And went back to the hotel with Joel. He had a hotel a couple blocks away from the courthouse. We sat down, and we just were talking, strategy and how they're going to win this and how they, what we're going to say. And we got on a conference call with Matt, and he was telling us how it's going to, how it's going to happen, and the questions they're going to ask, and they might sound absurd, they might not sound absurd, but don't lose your cool. Stick to what we told you, and we did everything Matt said. We did, and he said, if you do it this way, you'll win. If you do it the way I'm not telling you, you'll lose. And I, till this day, will not forget that. And we stuck to what he said and the way he said to do it. And as the case went on in the 3 days, Matt and Joel, the Liberty Counsel, seemed to know what they were going to say each day. So we were very well prepared for the questions. And they had me on Thursday and Friday for 3 hours total. They had me on for an hour on Thursday, for 2 hours on Friday. And I was basically the case. And they were trying to rip me apart, asking me some really absurd questions, but I had to answer them. But I knew what was coming beforehand, because the Liberty Counsel prepared me for these questions. So their lawyer from the Board of Ed could not penetrate me, or could not confuse me, or could not fluster me in any way. And he didn't, because I knew what he was saying before he was going to tell me, and I had the answers already prepared before he was going to tell me. Friday evening was the day the judge gave his decision, and I'll never forget that day because it was my birthday, January 26th. I turned 44 years old. The judge came in, sat down, and right off the bat he gave his verdict. And believe it or not, I didn't know we won at that time. Joe knew we won because he looked back and smiled at us, and I didn't know we won. And he kept on talking about how we won in legal jargon, which I really didn't understand. And I looked over at their table, the confident lawyers that they were, and they were writing, furiously on. And I didn't know what was going on. I really thought he was going to give the verdict at the end, because that's how I see it on television. But he gave it earlier, and we actually won the case. And the judge got up, gave his, ended his verdict, and Joel said, "We won, we won." I said, "We won." I couldn't believe it. I started crying. I actually went to the judge before he got to his chambers, and I took his right hand and held it tight, and I whispered in his ear, and I said, "Thank you for letting my daughter back in school, and today's my birthday." And I was crying. I mean, literally crying. And he said, "Happy birthday."
What an amazing situation that the Rotellas faced. Unless you were involved in this case, it's hard to imagine the emotional stress that they were under when they were facing the prospect that their daughter would literally be removed from their home and placed in Child Protective Services solely because they wanted to abide by their sincerely held religious convictions. We're going to talk with other individuals who are also faced with these important dilemmas. Do I obey my convictions, or do I obey a law that violates those religious beliefs? We'll be right back after this break.